Welcome to Nuanced Conversations, the podcast where depth meets dialogue, hosted by Dr. George E. Hurt. This show explores the gray areas of life, where faith, wisdom, and real-world complexities intersect. No easy answers, just honest conversations that challenge, inspire, and inform. Get ready to lean in, listen closely, and explore the nuance. This is Nuanced Conversations.
How was that interview process? How was those 4 months? That consists of interviews?
Bishop said it's your job. The rest is just formality. Just do what they tell you.
Do who tell you?
Whoever.
At the church? At
No, they had an interview process that they had all of that. But he said, "Man, the
it's
job
your job.
is yours.
Go through the process. Go through the process."
Now, of course, at the time, I didn't know there were 300 other candidates. But Bishop decided he wanted me.
And how do you resign? Do you tell Bishop Bryant? How does that happen with leaving St. Louis?
So Bishop Bryant is preaching at, So Bishop Jones is preaching at a church in Baltimore, and Bishop Bryant is there. And Bishop Jones gets up and says, "Oh, man, I'm so glad to see Bishop Bryant. Man, I just hired Joe." Bishop, you weren't supposed to say that, because in the AME church, once you accept a position in any other denomination, it invalidates your ordination.
Really?
Yes. But to his credit, and as a tribute to his integrity and his incredible impact on my life, Bishop didn't stop it. Bishop said, "Well, Joe, if that's what you want to do, do it." And when Bishop called, I found this out later, and when Bishop, because on that level, they're all friends. When Bishop Jones called Bishop Bryant and asked him, he's like, "No, Joe will help you." He could have stopped it.
How could he stop it?
Because what I did was illegal.
But what could he, religious court?
He could have called Bishop Jones and said, "Don't hire him."
Got you. Okay. But there's no legal ramifications.
No, I
just the penalty of
jail.
Your organization is, and you're going into now Oneness Pentecostal. Do you have to be ordained by them?
Mm-mm.
So it's just credential based, bishop's the bishop. So
bishop is the bishop. This is who we want.
How was that experience? How long were you there, and how was that experience?
Incredible, phenomenal. A graduate course in ministerial and preaching excellence. The honor of being trusted to run an organization that size, to see a first-rate intellect and a preacher of enormous skill wield his gift on a weekly basis, and to understand the cost of it all. I have nothing but great things to say about Noel Jones. Not too many people on his level who would give someone on my level the chance he did. I tell people all the time, he gave me the checkbook and the keys and said, "Run my church." It was like starting a church inside a mega church. Because to Bishop's credit, he, like many do, appreciate the structural thing that the AME church has, which is intrinsic. So he wanted to build a version of that within his ministry. And it was, it was great. He gave me what a lot of people don't give, and that's opportunity.
That's how I got 2004 to
2005 to 2007.
So just 2 years.
2 years.
Oh wow! I don't know. I feel like it's longer there. You were there. You're also preaching a lot. You're running administration, but you're also preaching a lot.
I'm
there and around the country.
Well, not so much the country, because the deal was, if you come here,
I need you here Monday through Friday.
I need you here Monday through Sunday.
Got you.
And Bishop at that time, the Refuge had 6 services a week, and probably for 2 years I preached probably most of them, because Bishop was
what
gone.
was the 6 services?
3 on Sunday, and then 5, and then 2 Bible classes.
What was the times of the 5 services?
8, 10, 6, then Wednesday, noon, and 7.
So 3 on Sunday and 2
during the week. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in Gardena campus at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then after that is when Resurrection is birthed?
Yeah, Bishop fires me.
Okay. Why you get fired?
He said that it was funny. I think two reasons. So Bishop Jones followed a legendary figure in Los Angeles named Bishop R.W. McMurray.
Mm-hmm.
When Bishop McMurray brought Bishop Jones in, Bishop McMurray was sick. He had been ill for many years. The bishop said to me when I first got here, he said, "Well, I'm bringing you in like McMurray brought me in, but the difference between me and Mac is I'm not sick." And then, so I think what Bishop realized is, I think it's hard to turn a battleship that large that quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Bishop overestimated the extent to which I would embrace the culture he had established,
Mm-hmm.
and underestimated the extent to which the culture that he had established would react to me. There's a better way to say that.
Mm-hmm.
When there's an organ transplant, there's a large possibility that the body won't receive the new organ.
Right.
And I think Bishop brought me in so quickly and gave me so much authority that it didn't give a lot of the people who were working there the opportunity to adjust to it. Like literally, I'm there, and the next week I'm running staff meetings. So I think there was, and justifiably so, Bishop had never had an executive pastor.
Mm-hmm.
There was never a number 2. There were many people in the church who thought they were going to get the position, and then you bring this 35-year-old kid in and give him the keys to the Bentley, and we're supposed to listen to him.
So it's a beta. It's a beta position.
Mm-hmm.
And while everything was going well, there was adjustments infrastructurally wise, internally, I would say, that caused tension, and so it was best to let you go.
Yeah, Bishop said to me, "You're gonna be all right," you know. But he said I probably should have brought you in 5 years ago and gradually worked you into the infrastructure, because the people were great, but the leadership infrastructure, the staff infrastructure, they had some questions that I think he was expecting me to address, which I assumed had been addressed before I got there. Because again, I'm coming from the AME church. In the AME church, everything is structured, everything is laid out. And the Pentecostal church is very different. Baptist church is very different. Like, for example, it was easy for you to win the vote because you had been at that church how long?
8 years, I think it was.
8 years. Could somebody have won the vote who had been there 2 weeks? Probably not.
Right.
Because in Baptist churches, Pentecostal churches, authority is mediated differently. In the AME church, you just show up with a piece of paper and you the pastor.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming, hey, man, I'm the executive pastor. Like, I remember the first staff meeting. I'm getting up, I'm saying, I was brought in because y'all ain't right. Somebody might get fired, but it won't be me. We laugh now about that. But again,
no real orientation.
And on my part, just a massive misreading of the situation. So I tell people all the time, if somebody hires you, they can fire you. I'm not upset. It just didn't work. Bishop and I remain friends. He has remained a trusted advisor. And I tell people all the time, I have nothing bad to say about him because he gave me what a lot of people want, and that's a chance.
Yeah. So many lessons in that. So you immediately start your new work.
Not immediately. My intention was to go home and rest, but I'm on the plane and said,
What's
Lord,
home? Because New York, what's
well,
home?
at the time, my family is living in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia,
Yeah,
okay.
my dad is pastoring in Philadelphia. And my intention, okay, I'm going to start a church, but I'm going to wait 3 months. I'm on the plane. The Spirit says, if you wait 3 months, that's too long.
Mhm.
So I turned around and I launched Resurrection on Father's Day of 2007. I got fired in May of 2007. Launched Resurrection a
how was
month later.
that? How was those beginning years of this new work for you?
My first Sunday, there were 500 people there.
Mm-hmm.
There were many people who said to me, Pastor, we will never leave Resurrection, but we appreciated your work there. We value your ministry.
Never leave City
I'm sorry.
Refuge.
We will never leave City Refuge, but we value your work. We appreciate that Bishop gave you the opportunity. We want to help you
Start.
and that's what a lot of them did.
Wow.
And yeah, our first Sunday was CSU Dominguez Hills. I tell people all the time, I didn't, apart from my time at the City of Refuge, of course, God can do anything, but to minimize or ignore or underestimate the impact of that, there is no resurrection without my time at the City of Refuge.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and Bishop was very supportive. He said, "I'm not going to help you, but I'm not going to hurt you."
Yeah. So who did help you?
That's a good question. How much time do we have? Men and women whose names you'll never know.
Yeah,
But
who helped you as far as pastors? And
pastors?
the things of that. Yeah. I mean, take your time.
What do you mean helped?
HELP.
Pastor Jamal Bryant, Pastor Delman Coates.
They don't live in LA though.
You asked me who they were, not where they were from.
Oh, okay.
Bishop Noel Jones,
You said he wasn't gonna help you.
Bishop John Bryant, but he
helped you by not hurting you.
He helped by not hurting.
Got you.
Bishop Sedgwick Daniels of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My father, Dean Lawrence Edward Carter.
How's the experience been as it relates to now being a founding pastor? You're coming from structure. Now you are it. How was that?
I realized God does all things well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the structure is right, it's easy to build the building. So everything I had just known instinctively. I mean, and again, I had passed on every level, right? So
you were able to do many
I was in a
things
small
organically.
church. I was in the mid-size. I was in a mega church. So now I'm in the only other church I haven't been in, which is a startup. And what I found is that all of those experiences were very, very, very helpful in helping me build the type of structure. Pastor Delman Coates gave me some of the best advice when I started. And I say this to pastors all the time. He said, Joe, pastor the church you got, not the one you was at. And so that's what I did. I was complaining to my father one time. I was like, they don't have this, they don't have that, they don't have this. He said, well, son, I'm going to tell you 2 things. He said, the world is hungry for the living bread. Lift the Savior up for them to see.
Yeah.
And if all else fails, pastor. Have a good night.
What is your current reality at your church? Where you're located? What's your service times?
Mm-hmm.
What's your ministry focus? What's
Mm-hmm.
your pillars?
Mm-hmm.
Where you want to be? Where you want to go? I know all that is just will flow from you organically.
People ask me all the time, I'll make it real quick for you. How are things going at Resurrection? My response is always the same. They think I'm being facetious, but I'm not. We're still open.
No. Okay, I got that. Where are you located?
We're located in Carson.
Carson,
California.
How long you been in that location?
So our ministry started at CSU Dominguez Hills in 2007. 2010, we moved to Janet Street, which is about 5 minutes away, and we've been there ever since. we are blessed. Most startup ministries, I don't know what the attrition rate is in Los Angeles. It's probably very high.
Very, very bad.
Very, 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 very high. We just celebrated 17 years.
Mhm.
Now, you have to understand, too, that 17 years is kind of deceptive because, 3 of them were during a pandemic. So we started a church in 2007. A year later, there's a recession.
Well, I would argue that
10
it's
years later.
probably because of the pandemic is more 20 years than 17 years, opposed
Probably.
to not being a whole 17.
Probably. Well, we were a prepubescent adult when the pandemic hit from a
Gotcha.
ministry standpoint.
Yeah.
So when I look at how God has favored us, I am not being facetious at all when I say we are blessed. We are blessed.
What are y'all?
beyond measure.
What's your service? What's your time?
9:30. We have one service.
One service at
9:30
9:30
a.m. and then a digital experience at 6:00
And
p.m.
what does that mean?
It's you can watch on YouTube or wherever else.
So it's
platform
not
of
a
your
live
choice.
stream at 9:30.
No.
So
Sometimes it depends.
Sometimes, but for the most part,
Yeah.
it's just that.
Mhm.
And then what about midweek?
No midweek. We started something called Motivation Mondays. And it is very interesting. Post-pandemic, I found out that people were less interested in information and more interested in community. So on a whim, I started something called Motivation Mondays, where the men and the women have biblically based conversations about issues relevant to their struggles. And that has been extraordinarily successful.
Does it happen in virtual space?
No. In person, live.
On campus?
On the campus. Men in one spot, women in the other.
And just have conversations. Do they eat and stuff like that?
They snuggle in Doritos, but it's
But it's
nothing
not a
catered.
formal eating thing.
Yeah, they just sit down. And actually, the men. So the women just got finished a book called Your Money and Your Man, and the men are working through John Elridge's Wild at Heart.
Mm.
And so I just pick an issue or a topic that emerges in a conversation, and use that to facilitate conversation and community, and they absolutely love it. We started something called during the pandemic, instead of Bible class, I would do a weekly blog,
Mm-hmm.
which just took off. So Monday Motivations, that conversation. Then we have Friday Focus, where I send out a blog every Friday morning at 8:00 on an issue or concern. We started something called, what's that thing on Wednesdays we were doing? Rewind Wednesday. So the purpose of Rewind Wednesday was to have a conversation about the previous message that Sunday. That didn't go too well, so I pulled the plug on that. Yeah.
Okay.
So again, post-pandemic, pre-pandemic, I found more desire for community and experience, less desire for information. So the traditional idea, you just standing up teaching Bible study, going book by book, they ain't seem like they like that too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What projects do you that are weighing on you that you want to do? in your church
Absolutely
that you-
none.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
Absolutely none.
Like 0?
0.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why is that?
I think, and I may be a contrarian in this regard. I think that the post-pandemic church has committed 2 mistakes. I think the first mistake that we have committed is that we define success as going back to whatever was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that whatever was before the pandemic is no longer and is not coming back. And this idea that I don't think what normal is has been established yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think in our zeal to recover whatever was, because, before the pandemic, we had doing this, doing that. We got 4 services on Sunday. Like all that is, people have changed. Their appetites have changed. Their desires, how we are supposed to serve has changed. I think failure to accept that reality has led to the second problem, and that is, man, we just throwing stuff on the wall, trying to find out what's going to stick.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most leaders would do themselves and their people a great service if they just admitted, you know what? I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know. And so I have given our ministry and our leaders the space to try to stand still on our watchtower and wait until God tells us what to do.
Yeah, I got you. I believe you, but I really don't believe you.
I'm serious.
I know. You said people tell you this all the time, but I visit Resurrection. It's before I even knew you. I think somebody knew me and we met afterwards, so. I know you up to something,
No,
but you don't have to share your nuanced conversation.
No, I'm telling
we'll find
you.
out.
I'm telling you.
It may just be in the reservation.
No, actually,
I don't need you to test it. I don't need nobody.
No,
if I don't believe you, I will believe you gonna call somebody else. Definitely ain't gonna believe them.
Actually, I am up to something.
I do. Right? I know.
It may not be what you think, but I wouldn't consider this something, but I can see how this is something. Mm-hmm. So I think during the pandemic, my key leaders and my key staff came to me and they said, Pastor, we are worn out.
Mm-hmm.
We are tired.
Mm-hmm.
During the pandemic, I would say 50% of my key leaders and staff either relocated, retired, or had a significant life change. Like they got married, they adopted some kids, they went on a jungle safari in Kenya and found themselves, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like just fundamental life change. And they all came back and they said, Pastor, we're tired. We have different objectives. We're in a different season. We want to do XYZ, still love you, still love the church, but we have recalibrated our commitment. Many of my key staff members are so good at what they do. They took positions with companies out of town, requires them to travel. Just monumental life change. Mm-hmm. So really, actually, what I'm working on in this season is building a bench, because the first 10 years, we had an exceptional group of people who served well. But what I found out was, even though you may have excellent people in different positions, if you don't have a bench from a longevity standpoint, you're not going to be able to sustain your ministry. So really the season I'm in, which explains why we really aren't doing too much, is training and developing a core of leaders who can reproduce themselves. So I'm in a season of leadership development.
Yeah, that's one of my burdens in life, of always being right and always knowing stuff that people don't. Because that's a major thing. What you just said is different.
Crazy is
I'm not up to anything.
But I don't really see it. No, I mean, I get it. I don't see it as a thing, I guess, because it's internal.
No,
and you know what I mean?
Like I said, it's in your mind. It's in the residue of your mind.
No, internal to the church.
I'm right.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
To be right all the time.
I forgot this was a nuance.
Listen, we got to get you out of here. Okay. It was so funny. You talking about what we're going to...
Right.
We out of time.
Already?
Because... this is what we do here. I laugh at people to talk about. I want to know what. Let me do what I do, and then you'll see what it be.
Okay.
So let's get just one fun thing out of you before we get out of here. I know we started golfing together.
Man,
it didn't go any further.
It didn't go that well. I'm trying, dog. You know, I don't know.
I was trying to find any excuse to be around somebody that been to Harvard and Morehouse and worked for Ernst & Young and went to St. Louis and found 5,000 people go to church.
You're so kind.
You know, and on and on. But as it relates to living or dead, if you could spend an hour with somebody, who would that person be? Dead. I'm sorry, not living.
Dead?
Yeah.
The Apostle Paul.
Apostle Paul. Yeah. Why?
It is absolutely stunning to me that a man who lived in a world where there were no Christian buildings, no Bible, who had nothing except a blazing intellect and a heart that had been touched by an encounter on a road in Damascus.
Mm.
Got on ships and walked thousands of miles into hostile territory in a culture where people had radically opposing ideas of what Christianity was all about, and planted the gospel in such a way that we're still reading about it today.
In the real sense, define the gospel.
Define it.
Yeah. Yeah.
A guy who could write Romans, dictating it to an amanuensis while he's on a ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to have an hour with him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, man, thanks for giving us more than an hour of your time here and Nuanced Conversations. I would hope that you would like, follow, or subscribe to the channel. Check us out on all digital platforms where you can find where you find podcasts, and also consider being a supporter of this effort, this media effort. And even if you want to be a sponsor, reach out to us and let us know. Thank you so much, Pastor Robinson.
Thank you for the invitation.
You're a great man. Thanks for coming, brother.
Thank you, man.
All right, we out.
Thank you for joining us on Nuanced Conversations. We invite you to return next week as we continue this dialogue. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and share this conversation with others who may find it valuable. Until next time.